Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel. Welcome to Week in Review, where we take a look at all the videos we put out over the last week. And there's a lot of videos going on, but this gives you some short summaries of each. And then in the description of this video, you'll have links to them, so you can go check out the full video if you want to know more. You want to know more? Stay tuned.
Hey everybody, Zee Garcia here, and here's what I did last week. So I did Unsung Gems with the letter S, games that I think deserve a little more love, and begin with the letter S. And then I reviewed Zoom in Barcelona, which I rated a 7 out of 10. This is a very simple traveling game. You're moving around the board, you are taking photographs of various locations, skylines, things like that. Very light game. It's a little too light for me personally, I think. But it's a very pretty welcoming game. It's one that I think would do very well for folks that enjoy travel, enjoy photography, or just have fond memories of Barcelona. Or simply want to share a game that is straightforward and smooth with folks that perhaps haven't played too many games and might be intimidated by something more grandiose. And then I reviewed a game called Oh My Brain, which I rate an 8 out of 10. And this is a ladder climbing sort of card game in which you're trying to get rid of all your cards in your hand. A couple of twists here are that you have some cards in front of you called your graveyard, that you have to draw those into your hand and then play them out. So you need to empty out that graveyard, and other players on their turns, if they are able to, they can stuff new cards in there and slow you down, mess you up. Whether, you're trying to avoid running out of these little brain tokens. It's very cute, very simple, kind of lucky and swingy, but also clever. And I enjoy the way it plays out. I really like the laughter and fun that comes along with the experience. It's a very quick-moving, light-hearted experience that just worked very well for me. So there you go. That's it for me. I'll see you on the next one.
Hey everyone, Chris Yee here. This week I did one review. I took a look at Destinies Myth and Folklore expansion. I gave that 9.5. In retrospect, I'm almost not sure why I didn't just give it a 10. This expansion is so good. It's for a game that I already love. It's a game that many people have criticisms of, and you know what, that's your personal taste. If you like Destinies, though, if you just want more scenarios, more really good, smoothly integrated, neat scenarios, I think some of the best ones, the Myth and Folklore expansion, is definitely my favorite, my favorite of the two expansions, and I would say even just my favorite scenarios overall in this system. So, that's my review for the week.
Hey there everybody, it's Mike DiLisio, and this week I was a part of 3 reviews. First of all, I was in the Foursquare review for Radlands, which is a 2-player dueling card game with a cool post-apocalyptic theme and look. I gave Radlands a 7 out of 10. It's a fine game. For me as a gamer, I don't particularly love the collectible card game type of feels, and this definitely leans into that. It's not a collectible card game, but it feels like one. Does some very clever things. I think the design overall is well done. It's just not really my type of game. If I am going to play a 2-player dueler, this is definitely one I would consider, though. So there's Radlands. Next up, I reviewed Moon Adventure. This is a new game from Oink Games, a Japanese publisher, and it's kind of a re-implementation of an earlier very popular game for them called Deep Sea Adventure. But in Moon Adventure, this is a cooperative game where you are trying to gather undamaged supplies that have been strewn across the surface of the moon. And it is a game that uses an action point system that I enjoy. There is a fair amount of luck, and you have to be okay with that going in, but it's a quick game, charming. I really like Moon Adventure. And then finally, I reviewed Into Deep, and I gave this an 8.5, a seal of excellence. And this is a game that could actually rise up in my estimation the more I play it. It is a game that has a very, again, cool theme, a kind of a cyberpunk theme where you are hacking into the minds of these criminals trying to influence their behavior. But really what it's about is a tactical board state puzzle game where on your turn, you're trying to manipulate the board in such a way that it matches a series of conditions that you have on cards. Once you're able to do that, you gain evidence that you can then file to one of a couple of different places that are going to influence endgame scoring. Very obtuse endgame kind of situation, so you have to understand that can be tricky for people to figure out, but once you get your mind wrapped around this puzzle, it is really, really satisfying. Well, that's it for me this week. Let's keep it moving!
Okay, so I did quite a few reviews this week, although I put several of them in multiple videos. I talked about Mystical Ladders. This was part of my silly games looking. This is a terrible, terrible, terrible game. I know it's for kids. Still terrible. 2 out of 10. Chutes and Ladders. That's basically it. Chompin' Charlie is a hilarious looking game with a squirrel that you stick acorns in its mouth so it shoots them all out of its butt. That sounds funny. Not much of a game, though. Pretty bad. 4 out of 10. The Dali Fox. This is actually a push-your-luck game. I don't necessarily hate the game, but mechanically it messes up almost every time, so 5 out of 10. Baseball highlights and football highlights. These are from Mike Fitzgerald. I like roll and write games, many of them, and I like baseball highlights, the game, the card game. This one, though, doesn't really do anything. It's okay. So I don't really like it that much. 5 out of 10, both of them. Pachacuna, this is a llama game, beautiful looking game where you're moving llamas around, rotating tiles, 2-player versus game. That's ruined for me by simply too much luck. 5 out of 10. Cakes, this is a stacking game where you stack cards of cakes. It's okay. There's a lot of these stacking games out there. This one looks cool though. 6 out of 10. Rokumon, I gave this one a 6.5. It just misses the mark for me. It's an interesting 2-player abstract strategy game using kind of samurai as its motif, but it's too esoteric. It's a little too weird to figure out. It's a few too many rules for such a small game. 6.5. Staxis. This is a thing where you're stacking wooden blocks. I know there's a very popular one of these games called Jenga. This is a little bit different than Jenga because the blocks are long and thin and you stack them differently. 7 out of 10. Art Decko. This mixes a deck building game along with an economic game. Certainly worth looking at. 7 out of 10. Dreamember, a word party game. I really like this one where you're putting letters out and you have to think of a word that contains some letters and doesn't have others, or bluff that you know such a word. 7 out of 10. And we did a 4-square review of Radlands, a back-and-forth 2-player game that feels like a collectible card game, but a very small footprint. Really enjoy this one. 8 out of 10. I did a top 10 reprints, games I'd love to see reprinted. For me, personally. I did this with Jason Levine and Mr. Stephen Bonacore. We did a live play of Yucata. I did a Q&A about the Dice Tower Cruise and about Dice Tower West. And we did 3 more entries in our top 100 games of all times. I also took a look at 2 more shelves in the Dice Tower library. Like I said, a lot of videos for you to check out. And of course, all our live stuff, crowd surfing, board game breakfast, etc. A lot of stuff, and more is coming this week. Don't forget to check out our Kickstarter, DicetowerKickstarter.com. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching Week in Review on the Dice Tower.